Imagine this. You walk into your favorite cafe. You step up to the counter. You already know what you want. Medium latte, extra hot, no sugar. You don't wonder if they'll have it. You don't beg for it. You don't second guess yourself. You place the order, and you expect it to arrive. Now here's the question. Why don't we treat money the same way? When you order coffee, you have clarity. You know what size. You know what flavor. You know exactly what you want. But when it comes to money, most people are vague. They say things like, I just want more money, or I wish I was rich. That's like walking into a cafe and saying, just give me something. Would you ever do that? Of course not. So why do we do it with money? Here's the truth. Money responds to clarity, just like the barista responds to a clear order. If you can't define it, you can't receive it. If you can't picture it, you can't hold it. Think about it. When you order coffee, you trust the process. You don't watch the barista nervously. You don't doubt if your drink will show up. You believe it's coming, and it does. But with money, people hesitate. They place an order in their mind. I want abundance. I want freedom. And then they cancel it with doubt. They say, what if it doesn't come? What if I'm not worthy? What if I can't afford this life? Imagine standing at the cafe counter, placing your order, then shouting, wait, cancel it. I don't think I deserve coffee today. Sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? Yet we do this with money every single day. So what would happen if we shifted? What if we treated money like coffee? Clear order, confident expectation, faith in the process, and the patience to wait for it to arrive. Let me give you an example. There was a young entrepreneur I coached. He wanted to make more money. That's what he kept saying. I asked him, how much? He shrugged. So I challenged him. Order it. Be specific. He wrote down, I want to earn $10,000 in the next 90 days. That was his order. He believed it, visualized it, and acted on it. Within 3 months, he hit exactly $10,000. Not because he begged for it, not because he doubted, but because he ordered it with clarity and trust. Money is energy, and energy flows where direction is given. So here's what I want you to ask yourself. What am I really ordering from life? Do I know the amount? Do I know the feeling I want with it? Do I trust the process? Or do I cancel my order every time fear shows up? Here's the shift. Start ordering money the same way you order your morning coffee. Clear, confident, without hesitation, and without apology. Because the universe is the ultimate cafe. And your thoughts, your words, your actions, they are the menu. Here are some key points related to this. Money should be ordered with clarity, not vague wishes. Doubt cancels your order, just like canceling a coffee request. Confidence and trust in the process attract results. Be specific. Exact goals create exact outcomes. Money, like energy, flows toward clear direction. Treat abundance as natural and expected, just like your morning coffee. Clarity is a foundation of every manifestation, every achievement, every desire turned into reality. Think about the last time you walked into a cafe, or maybe your favorite restaurant. You looked at the menu, you knew what you wanted, and you ordered it. The waiter didn't need to read your mind, didn't need to guess, didn't need to figure out whether you were craving something sweet, salty, or spicy. You told him exactly what you wanted, and the moment the order was placed, the process began. The chef got to work, the kitchen moved, the timing fell into place, and before long, your plate or your cup arrived. It was simple, clear, direct. That is the kind of clarity most people lack when it comes to money. Instead of saying, I want this amount by this date, they say, I just want more money. And the universe, like a confused waiter, responds in the same vague way. It hands back something. $1 here, a random opportunity there. Maybe a small raise that barely changes anything. It's not because the universe is unkind, but because the order was never clear to begin with. I once spoke to a man who told me, I just want to be rich. I asked him, what does rich look like to you? He paused, stared off into the distance, and then admitted, I don't really know. Maybe just enough not to worry anymore. But what does enough even mean? Enough to pay the rent? Enough to buy a new car? Enough to feel free? If you cannot picture it, if you cannot define it, how can it ever arrive? Imagine telling a barista, I just want something to drink. They could hand you a black coffee, and technically, your request would be fulfilled. But what if you hate black coffee? What if you wanted a caramel latte extra hot, with whipped cream on top? Unless you say it, you won't get it. The order has to be clear. Money is no different. Clarity is not just about numbers. It is about the feeling, the energy, the vision. A woman I once met had been struggling financially for years. She always said the same thing. I just need more money. Life would be better if I had more. But when pressed for detail, she couldn't tell me what more actually looked like. So I asked her to sit down with a notebook and write it out as if she were placing an order at her favorite cafe. She hesitated at first. It felt strange, even childish. But then she began to write, I want $5,000 to pay off my debt. I want $2,000 to take my children on vacation. I want $10,000 saved in the bank for security. When she read those words aloud, her face changed. She felt it. She could see it. She could almost touch it. And for the first time, money was no longer an abstract wish floating in her mind. It was an order placed with the universe. Within 6 months, opportunities came. She was offered freelance work. A friend referred her to a new job. She received a small inheritance she never expected. Bit by bit, the pieces aligned. Not because magic fell from the sky, but because she had finally given her life clear instructions. Clarity also gives courage. When you know exactly what you want, your actions align without hesitation. It's like driving to a destination with a GPS. Imagine getting into your car without typing in an address. You just drive. You turn left, you turn right, you go in circles. Hours pass and you're exhausted. That's what vague financial goals feel like. You move, you work, you hustle, but you never arrive anywhere. Now imagine typing in the exact address. Instantly, the path unfolds. Even if there's traffic, even if you take a wrong turn, the GPS recalculates and brings you back on track. That is what clarity does with money. It gives your brain a destination. Your subconscious, your decisions, your habits all begin to shift toward that specific outcome. I remember sitting with a young man in his 20s who told me he wanted to make it big. I asked him, what does big mean? He said, lots of money, a nice car, a better life. I pushed him further. What car? What house? How much money? At first, he resisted. He said, it doesn't matter as long as it's better than now. But the problem with better is that it's a moving target. If you earn $100 more than last month, technically life is better. If you buy a used car instead of taking the bus, life is better. But is that the dream? Or is that just settling for scraps? When he finally admitted he wanted a BMW by age 30, $100,000 in savings, and a home with a backyard for his kids, something shifted. He lit up. He finally had a picture in his mind. And from that moment on, his energy, his work ethic, his decisions all began to align with that vision. Clarity unlocked his focus. There's a famous saying, vague goals produce vague results. And you can see it everywhere. People who say, I just want to lose weight, end up dieting without ever truly transforming. But those who say, I will lose 20 pounds in the next 3 months by exercising 4 times a week and cutting sugar, often succeed because they place a clear order with life. Why should money be any different? Why do we treat it as if it's too sacred to define, too mysterious to measure? The truth is, the clearer you are, the faster life delivers. Clarity also changes your language, and language shapes your reality. Words are powerful. When you say, I just want more money, you're telling the universe you're unsure, uncommitted, and maybe even undeserving. But when you say, I am ready to receive $10,000 this month, everything about you changes. Your tone, your posture, your confidence. It's like the difference between walking up to the counter and mumbling, maybe coffee, I don't know, versus standing tall and saying, grande cappuccino, extra foam, please. Which one gets served faster? Which one commands respect? Money, like people, respond to conviction. And yet, So many cancel their order before it even arrives. They say, I want $50,000 this year, and then whisper under their breath, but that's impossible. Who am I kidding? It's as if they walked up to the counter, placed the order, and then shouted, wait, cancel it. I can't afford it anyway. Would you ever do that in a cafe? Would you ever humiliate yourself like that in public? Of course not. But we do it silently in our own minds every single day. And then we wonder why life delivers nothing. The first step toward abundance is to get specific. Write it down. Say it out loud. Don't be afraid to be precise. If you want $5,432, say $5,432. If you want a trip to Paris in May, say Paris in May. If you want $100,000 by December 31st, claim $100,000 by December 31st. Place the order with the same boldness you place your morning coffee order. Not a whisper, not a question, a statement. Because clarity is not just about numbers. It is about certainty, direction, and belief. Doubt is a silent thief of every dream, and when it comes to money, it has a way of sneaking into the very moment we place our order. Imagine this. You walk into a cafe, step confidently to the counter, and say, I'd like a caramel macchiato, please. The barista nods, writes it down, and turns to make your drink. But then you hesitate. You lean over the counter and whisper, wait, are you sure you can make that? Do you think it'll taste good? Maybe I don't deserve something so fancy. Maybe I should just take plain black coffee instead. The barista stares, confused, wondering if you want to cancel. And just like that, your order is no longer clear. You've doubted, second-guessed, and stripped away the confidence that was already in motion. That's exactly what happens when you ask for money and then cancel it in your mind with fear, worry, or disbelief. You send mixed signals, and the universe, like the barista, doesn't know what to deliver. I once spoke with a woman who told me she had written down a goal. I want to earn $20,000 this year. She was excited, inspired, and for a brief moment she believed it was possible. But then, almost in the same breath, she sighed and said, but who am I kidding? People like me don't make that kind of money. I'm just not cut out for it. Do you see what happened? She placed the order, then tore up the receipt before it even reached the kitchen. Her words of doubt canceled the very request she had just made. How many times have we all done that? We get bold enough to write the number down, bold enough to whisper it into the universe, but then we destroy it with one thought. What if it doesn't come? What if I'm not enough? What if I'm reaching too high? There's an old saying, faith and fear cannot occupy the same space. Think about that. You either trust the order is on its way, or you allow doubt to poison the process. There is no middle ground. When you order coffee, don't stand there tapping your foot nervously, wondering if the barista might forget you, or if someone else will drink your cup instead. You trust the process, and because you trust, you wait calmly until it arrives. But with money, we panic. We look around at what we don't have, and our fear becomes louder than our faith. We stare at our empty bank account and say, see, it's not coming. I knew it was too much to ask. But what if the order is already in progress? What if it's being prepared behind the scenes, and all you need to do is wait? Doubt makes you walk out of a cafe just before your name is called. Doubt makes you leave before the delivery arrives at your table. I knew a young man once who dreamed of starting a business. He wrote down his goal. He wanted $50,000 in funding to launch his idea. He told me about it with a sparkle in his eye, full of energy and possibility. But as weeks went by, he began to question himself. He said things like, I don't know if investors will take me seriously. What if I fail? What if I embarrass myself? Each doubt chipped away at his order until it was barely recognizable. And sure enough, he gave up before ever pitching his idea. Later, he admitted, it wasn't that I didn't have opportunities. It was that I didn't believe I was worthy of them. That's the power of doubt. It doesn't just stop money from coming. It stops you from taking the actions that would have welcomed it. Doubt is sneaky because it dresses itself as logic. It whispers, be realistic. Don't dream too big. Don't get your hopes up. But realism is often just another name for fear. No one calls it doubt when they're saying it. They call it being practical, being cautious, being grounded. But what if being realistic is just another way of canceling your order? What if the very thing you're waiting for is one leap of faith away, and doubt is the only thing holding the door shut? Let's play with an image. Imagine you walk into a cafe every morning for 30 days. On day 1, you order a latte. On day 2, you say, No, cancel the latte, I'll take a cappuccino instead. On day 3, you change your mind again. Actually, maybe tea would be safer. By day 4, you're back to the latte. By day 5, you tell them, Never mind, I don't think I deserve to drink anything at all. How long do you think it will take before you actually get something in your hands? That's how most people treat their financial goals. They change them daily. They place an order with enthusiasm, then cancel it with fear. They dream big at night, then erase it by morning with doubt, and they wonder why nothing shows up. When I coach people, I often ask them to imagine the barista standing there with their drink in hand. Your order is ready, I say, but you've walked out of the cafe. That drink, the money, the opportunity, the breakthrough, is right there waiting, but doubt made them leave too early. And the saddest part is, they may never know how close they were. There's a story I once heard about a miner who dug for years searching for gold. He grew tired, discouraged, and finally quit selling his equipment. The person who bought it dug just 3 feet deeper and struck one of the richest gold veins in history. Doubt made the first man stop. Doubt blinded him from seeing how close he really was. Isn't that how most of us treat money? We try, we ask, we dream, but when it doesn't show up instantly, we start doubting. We stop digging, when in truth, the abundance was only 3 feet away. The mind is a powerful thing. Whatever you repeat, you reinforce. If you keep repeating, it won't work, it won't come, I'm not good enough, your mind begins to believe it, and your actions follow. You don't apply for opportunities. You don't take risks. You don't step forward. But the opposite is also true. If you keep repeating, it's on its way. I am worthy. I trust the process. Your energy shifts, your actions align, and life begins to respond. Just like the barista who calls your name when your drink is ready, the universe calls your name when your money is ready. The only question is, are you still there to receive it, or have you let doubt make you walk away? Doubt doesn't just cancel your order once. It cancels it again and again, each time you allow fear to win over faith. Every time you tell yourself, maybe I shouldn't ask for too much, you hand back the menu and walk away hungry. Every time you say, who am I to deserve that kind of life? You push away the very cup you've been waiting for. And every time you say, it's too late, it's too big, it's too impossible, you close the door on the very delivery truck that was pulling up to your door. The truth is, money comes to those who trust their order, who stand tall at the counter and believe it's on its way, who don't walk out halfway, who don't cancel the request with fear, who don't let doubt whisper them out of the cafe before the order is ready. And maybe that's the hardest part, because it requires us to believe before we see, to hold faith before there is evidence, to act as if it's already coming, even when the counter is still empty. But just like coffee, money shows up when the order is clear, when it's trusted, and when it's not canceled by doubt. Confidence and trust in the process are what transform a wish into a reality. Picture yourself walking into a cafe. You order your favorite drink, let's say a vanilla latte with extra foam. You don't stand there, trembling, wondering if they'll run out of coffee beans, or if the milk delivery didn't arrive that morning. You don't start questioning whether the barista likes you enough to make your drink. You don't beg them, please, don't forget my order. You trust. You walk to the side, find a spot to wait, maybe check your phone or talk to a friend, and you simply know your drink is coming. That level of calm expectation is what's missing when most people try to call money into their lives. They beg, they panic, they doubt, and they suffocate the process instead of letting it flow. I once met a man who said to me, I want to be wealthy, but I can't stop worrying about it every second of the day. He was obsessed with the outcome, but had no faith in the process. He kept checking his metaphorical counter to see if the drink was ready, like someone pacing back and forth, tapping the glass, glaring at the barista as if staring harder would make it come faster. That's not trust. That's fear dressed up as effort. And what happens when you don't trust? You interfere. You panic. You start trying to control every detail. And often, you block the very thing you're asking for. Just like digging up a seed to check if it's growing. People dig up their financial intentions too early, and then they wonder why nothing sprouts. Confidence is not arrogance. It's a quiet knowing. It's the ability to say, I've placed the order, and now it's on its way. When I was younger, I remember my grandmother once saying, if you're going to pray for rain, at least carry an umbrella. That stuck with me. If you're going to ask for money, prepare as though it's already arriving. That's what confidence looks like. Your actions align with your belief. It's not standing there wringing your hands, wondering if maybe, possibly, perhaps, something might happen. It's moving forward as if it's already done. I saw this in a young woman I once coached. She wanted to leave her job and start her own online business, but she was terrified of letting go of the little security she had. She told me, I'll start once I feel safe, once I know for sure it'll work. But here's the paradox. She was waiting for certainty before moving, while certainty only comes once you've moved. I told her, it's like ordering coffee but refusing to step to the pickup counter until you can already smell it. You'll never smell it if you don't go claim it. Eventually, she began taking small steps, trusting that the money would come as she aligned with her vision. Within a year, her side business replaced her income, not because she controlled every detail, but because she trusted the process enough to act with confidence instead of fear. Trust also requires patience. Coffee doesn't appear the instant you place your order. The beans have to be ground, the milk steamed, the drink prepared, and the more complex the order, the more time it might take. If you walk out after 2 minutes, you miss it. The universe works the same way. If you've asked for $100,000, maybe there are conversations, connections, and opportunities lining up behind the scenes, invisible to you, but absolutely in motion. If you trust, you wait. If you panic, you walk away too soon. Confidence is saying, even if I don't see it yet, I know it's being prepared. There's a story I love about a farmer who plants seeds in spring. He doesn't stand in the field every morning yelling at the soil, why haven't you grown yet? Where are the crops? He knows the process. He's confident in the seasons. He waters, he nurtures, he waits. Because the harvest always comes in its time. But when it comes to money, most people act like impatient farmers. They dig up their intentions every few days, doubting the soil, doubting the rain, doubting themselves. Confidence is what lets you walk away from the field and know it's growing, even when you can't see a single sprout. I knew a businessman who lost everything in a bad investment. People around him thought he was finished. But he told me, I trust that this setback is part of the process. Money will come again because I know how to create it. And he said it with such conviction that you could feel in the room. He didn't act desperate. He didn't act defeated. He acted as though he already knew his comeback was inevitable. Within 2 years, he rebuilt his wealth and surpassed what he'd lost. Confidence was his anchor in the storm. Without it, he would have drowned in fear. With it, he walked out stronger. The truth is, life mirrors your expectation. If you walk into the cafe convinced they'll mess up your order, you'll be tense, suspicious, ready to complain, and chances are you'll notice every tiny flaw. If you walk in confident, trusting, relaxed, you receive with gratitude, and the drink seems to taste even better. The same applies to money. If you expect struggle, if you expect scarcity, that's what you'll notice, and that's what will multiply. If you expect flow, if you expect opportunities, if you trust abundance, you begin to see it everywhere. Confidence sharpens your vision, while doubt blinds it. Confidence also changes how others see you. Think about it. If you walked into a cafe unsure, mumbling, I don't know, maybe something small, if that's okay, people wouldn't take you seriously. But if you step up and clearly state your order, the barista doesn't question it. They just get to work. The same thing happens with money and opportunity. Employers, clients, investors, even friends. People respond to your confidence. If you're shaky, they doubt you. If you're steady, they trust you. Money loves confidence because it feels safe in hands that know what to do with it. I once heard a speaker say, the universe is like a loyal servant. It doesn't ask if you're ready. It simply brings what you order. but it responds faster to orders placed with confidence. That resonated deeply with me, because when you say, I want $10,000 this month, but your voice shakes with uncertainty, it's like placing an order in a whisper barista can barely hear. But when you say it with conviction, the energy is unmistakable. It's like ringing a bell that cannot be ignored. So many people sabotage their financial life because they don't trust the process. They say, I've been asking for abundance, but nothing's changing. But the truth is, they've been asking and doubting, asking and canceling, asking and interfering. Confidence means you let go. You don't plant seeds and then keep digging them up. You don't place an order and then keep shouting, where is it? You trust. You wait. You move forward as if it's already on its way. That calm certainty is what attracts money, what multiplies it, what holds it. Confidence is the invisible handshake you give to life. It's the nod that says, I know it's coming. It's a steady heartbeat that doesn't waver when circumstances look empty. It's the way you carry yourself when your bank account is low, but your vision is high. And when you live in that space, when you order money with the same calm trust you order coffee, life bends to meet your belief. Money shows up not as a miracle, but as a natural response to your confidence in the process. Specific goals create specific outcomes, and nowhere is this more obvious than the way we treat money. Think about how you walk into a cafe. You don't say, just give me something warm. You don't mumble, I guess whatever is easiest for you make. You place a clear, deliberate order. A medium cappuccino with oat milk, extra foam, no sugar. And because you were precise, what you want shows up exactly as you envisioned. But when it comes to money, most people are painfully vague. They say, I want more money, without realizing that life will answer them the same way a barista would, by handing them loose change, a random dollar on the street, or a minor raise that barely changes anything. It's not because life is unfair. It's because the order was never specific. Vague orders create vague results. I remember a young man I once coached who told me, I just want to be financially free. I asked him, what does freedom look like to you? He paused and shrugged. I guess not worrying about bills. I pressed him further. How much would that take? He thought about it, then finally said, maybe around $4,000 a month. That was the first time he had ever given his dream a number. Before that, it was just a cloud in the sky, beautiful to look at but impossible to hold. The moment he attached a specific figure, everything shifted. He could now measure his progress. He could now say, I'm at $2,500 a month. I need $1,500 more. That specificity lit a fire under him, and within a year, he hit his $4,000 goal. And when he did, he laughed and said, I never realized how powerful it was to know the number. Specificity sharpens focus. Imagine you're playing darts. If you just throw them at the wall, you might hit something, but there's no target, no intention. But if you fix your eyes on the bullseye, your hand steadies, your throw sharpens, and suddenly every part of your body aligns with that one small circle. The target focuses you. That's what exact goals do with money. If you say, I want $10,000 in the next 90 days, suddenly your brain begins to filter opportunities differently. You notice possibilities you ignored before. You evaluate choices by asking, will this bring me closer to that $10,000? The number pulls you forward like a magnet. But if all you ever say is, I want more money, your brain has nothing to aim at, and so you drift. I once heard a story about Jim Carrey before he was famous. He wrote himself a check for $10 million for acting services rendered and dated it 5 years in future. He carried it in his wallet, looking at it often, until the day came when he landed a movie role that paid him exactly that amount. Some people dismiss this as luck or coincidence, but what's undeniable is that he was specific. He didn't say, I want to be successful. He didn't say, I want to earn more than I do now. He said $10 million. That number became his target, his compass, his guiding star. And life, in its mysterious way, responded. Specificity also changes how you behave daily. When you know you want $5,000 this month, you don't waste time on distractions that can't bring you closer to it. You prioritize differently. You act differently. Think of a runner preparing for a marathon. If they say, I just want to run farther, they might jog a little extra one day and stop the next. But if they commit to 26.2 miles by a specific date, their training schedule becomes clear. Every run, every stretch, every choice is measured against that target. Money works the same way. Without a number, you wander. With a number, you march. There was a woman I once knew who dreamed of taking her children to Disney World. She always said, someday I'll save up enough. But someday is a vague place where dreams go to die. One day, she sat down and calculated the exact cost. Flights, hotel, tickets, food, souvenirs. The total came to $8,742. She wrote that number on a piece of paper and taped it to her fridge. Suddenly, it wasn't just a wish. It was a tangible target. Every time she looked at that number, she asked herself, what can I do today to get closer to this? She cut small expenses, sold things she didn't need, took on side gigs, and little by little, the fun grew. Less than a year later, she and her children walked through the gates of Disney, and she cried because the number had become reality. Without specificity, she'd still be saying, someday. With specificity, she arrived. Specificity also forces you to be honest with yourself. Many people are afraid to name a number because it makes their dream real, and once it's real, they fear failing. As long as it's vague, it feels safe. I just want more money carries no risk, because you can always say you got more if you find $1 on the ground. But the moment you say, I want $50,000 this year, you've drawn a line in the sand. You've made yourself accountable. That can feel scary, but it's also the very thing that gives your dream power. When you name it, you claim it. There's also something magical about numbers. They make the invisible visible. I once asked an audience to shout out how much money they wanted in the next 12 months. Most people yelled vague answers like, a lot, or more than I have now. But few stood up and shouted specific amounts. $60,000, $120,000, $250,000. You could feel the energy shift. The ones who spoke numbers spoke with power. Their voices carried conviction. And when I checked in with some of them months later, it was no surprise that the ones with numbers had made more progress than those who stayed vague. Because the mind cannot pursue fog. It needs a target. Think again of the cafe. If you walk in and say, I like something sweet, maybe hot, maybe cold, I don't know, the barista is stuck. They might hand you a cookie, or they might give you a random drink. But if you say, large caramel frappuccino with whipped cream, they move with speed and certainty. Life is the same. Vague wishes stall the process. Exact orders ignite it. And the beauty is, the more precise you are, the more empowered you feel. You no longer wonder if you're moving in the right direction. You know. I once worked with a man who wanted to retire early. For years, he said, I want to be comfortable when I stop working. But when I asked him what comfortable meant, he couldn't answer. Eventually, I guided him to calculate the lifestyle he envisioned. The house, the travel, the hobbies, the health care. When he added it all up, the number shocked him. He needed $2.3 million. For the first time, he had a concrete target. And instead of feeling overwhelmed, he felt relieved. He finally knew what he was aiming for. And once he had that number, he began a plan. Investments, savings, income streams, all of it started to take shape because the fog had lifted. The power of specificity gave him direction. The truth is, life listens to the clarity of your request. If you're willing to be precise, life is willing to respond. Exact goals create exact outcomes, just as exact orders create exact drinks. And while it may feel safer to stay vague, it's specificity that pulls your dream into the physical world. Without it, you're drifting. With it, you're directing. And that single shift, naming the number, claiming the target, is often the difference between wishing for abundance and truly living it. There's a rhythm to life that few ever learn to dance with, a rhythm of giving before receiving, of planting before harvesting, of pouring out before being filled. When it comes to money, most people wait with open hands, whispering, when more comes to me, then I'll give, then I'll share, then I'll bless others. But life doesn't work that way. Life responds not to waiting, but to initiating. It listens to the heart that says, even in my smallness, I can give. Even in my lack, I can pour. The law is simple. What you release multiplies. What you cling to stagnates. Picture a clenched fist. Nothing gets out, but nothing gets in either. Now, picture an open palm. Generosity flows through it, and so does abundance. I remember meeting a woman years ago who was deeply in debt. She told me, I can't afford to give anyone right now. I need every cent just to stay afloat. Her words carried the desperation of someone drowning. I didn't argue with her pain, but I asked gently, do you believe generosity is only for the rich? Or do you believe it's an attitude of the heart? She looked at me confused. So I shared with her the story of a young boy who once gave away his lunch of 5 loaves and 2 fish, not realizing it would feed thousands. That boy wasn't wealthy, but his willingness to release what he had unlocked a miracle. Slowly, tears welled in her eyes. She whispered, so even if it's small, it matters? I nodded, especially when it's small, because it shows the universe you trust. A few weeks later, she sent me a letter. She had started giving just $5 a week to someone who needed it more than her. At first, it seemed insignificant, but soon after, unexpected opportunities began to appear. Extra shifts at work, a side project, even a small inheritance she never saw coming. She wrote, I used to think giving would make me lose, but it made me gain. That is the paradox of generosity. It feels like subtraction, but it always becomes multiplication. When a farmer places seeds into the ground, it looks like loss. He takes something he could have eaten and buries it in dirt. To the untrained eye, it's foolishness. But the farmer knows a secret. What looks like loss is actually the beginning of increase. He knows that for every seed surrendered, a harvest waits. Money follows the same law. If you hoard it in fear, it shrinks. If you circulate it in trust, it grows. I once spoke with a wealthy businessman who said to me, I never give because I don't like parting with what I earned. Yet in our conversation, he admitted something startling. No matter how much I make, it feels like it slips through my fingers. The more I hold, the less I have. His words reveal the truth. He was a dam, not a river. Water in a dam grows stagnant, heavy and lifeless. Water in a river flows, nourishes, and stays alive. Money is the same. It is not meant to sit in cold storage. It is meant to flow, to move, to bless. That businessman eventually decided to test generosity. Reluctantly, he began funding scholarships for underprivileged students. Within 2 years, his business grew exponentially, and he said to me with awe, I don't understand how this works, but it feels like every time I release, it comes back bigger. There's a scripture I once heard that says, Give, and it shall be given unto you, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. Even if you strip away the religious language, the truth remains. Giving sets in motion a cycle of return. I saw this play out vividly in the life of a young couple. They had very little, just enough to cover rent and basic groceries. One winter, a neighbor lost her job, and they felt compelled to buy her food with the little they had left. It was a sacrifice that hurt. But days later, the husband received an unexpected job offer with double the pay of his old one. He told me, it was like the moment we gave, a door opened that had been locked for years. Stories like this are not rare. They are everywhere once you begin to notice them. The act of giving does something inside you as well. It loosens fear's grip. Fear whispers, if you let go, you'll never have enough. But when you give, you prove fear wrong. You demonstrate to yourself that money is not your master, but your servant. You step into a posture of abundance, declaring, I have more than enough to share. And that declaration reshapes your reality. I often tell people, don't wait until you feel abundant to give. Give until you feel abundant. A man once told me he lived by a rule his grandmother taught him. Whenever you get paid, fold a portion of it and set it aside for someone else. He confessed that at first, as a young man working a low-wage job, it felt painful. But over the years, he noticed something remarkable. His finances always stretched further than those of his friends who hoarded. He said with a smile, I think money trusts me now. It knows I don't trap it. I let it move. That phrase stuck with me. Money trusts me now. Because generosity creates trust between you and life itself. Some may argue, but I gave once and nothing came back. To that, I say, giving is not a slot machine. It is not a one-time transaction. It is a lifestyle, a posture, a rhythm. Farmers don't plant a single seed and walk away expecting endless harvests. They keep planting, season after season, trusting the law of the earth. In the same way, generosity is a continual practice. It trains the heart to expect abundance, and in time, abundance arrives. I think of an elderly woman I met who lived on a very modest pension. Every morning, she baked bread and gave a loaf to someone in her neighborhood. She had done this for years. When I asked her why, she smiled and said, "Because it reminds me that I always have something to give." And the irony was, she never lacked. People in the community looked after her. Doors of kindness opened for her, and she radiated a peace that even the wealthy envied. She was proof that wealth is not measured only by what you hold, but by what you release. Money is like breath. Inhale and exhale. If you only inhale, you suffocate. If you only exhale, you faint. Life requires both. Yet so many people inhale money and never exhale it. They hold their breath financially and wonder why they feel tight, restricted, anxious. But those who breathe with their money, who give and receive, find flow, peace, and expansion. Giving keeps you alive inside. When you think about it, every great act of human progress has been built on generosity. Someone gave their time, their resources, their talent, their money. From hospitals to schools, from art to science, from charity to innovation. It all began with someone saying, "I will give what I have." And in that giving, humanity has advanced. The same principle echoes in your own life. What you release multiplies. What you hold shrinks. Generosity is not loss. It is investment. It is not weakness. It is power. It is not subtraction. It is multiplication disguised. And so, the moment you stop waiting to have enough before giving and instead start giving with what you already have, you step into a different current of life. You stop being a stagnant pond and become a flowing river. You discover that what you thought would leave you emptier actually leaves you fuller. You realize that money is not attracted to fear, but to trust, not to hoarding, but to circulation. And slowly, sometimes quietly, sometimes explosively, your giving begins to return to you in ways you never expected, reminding you of a timeless truth, that the hands which are open to give are the very hands that are also open to receive energy is invisible, yet we feel it everywhere. You walked into a room before where no one spoke a word, but you knew instantly whether there had been laughter or conflict just moments earlier. You stood beside someone who radiated calm and felt your own breathing slow down, or next to someone vibrating with stress and noticed your chest tighten. This is energy. It communicates. It attracts. It repels. It flows. Money is no different. It carries a frequency, and it responds to the energy you place around it. Most people think money is purely mechanical. Numbers on a screen, notes in a wallet, digits exchanged between banks. But have you noticed how money seems to move faster to certain people? The ones who carry an aura of confidence, clarity, and direction. It's not always that they're smarter or luckier. It's that money, like energy, responds to signals. And direction is the strongest signal of all. Think of it like water in a hose. If the hose is lying loose on the ground with no one aiming it, water splashes everywhere in random directions. But when someone grips it firmly, points it, and controls the flow, the water becomes powerful, precise, useful. Money works exactly the same way. Without direction, it leaks, it scatters. It disappears into meaningless expenses and unconscious habits. But when you tell exactly where to go, it obeys, it strengthens, it multiplies. Energy flows where direction is given. I once spoke with a young man who said, "No matter how much money I make, it vanishes. It feels like sand slipping through my fingers." I asked him, "Do you give your money assignments?" He frowned, confused. I explained, "When money arrives in your life, do you tell it where to go, or do you let it wander?" He admitted that he never really thought about it that way. He just spent until it was gone. So I challenged him to shift. I told him, from now on, Every dollar that enters your life, give it a purpose. Some dollars work for your future. Some dollars work for your present. Some dollars work to multiply. Some dollars work to bring joy. But every dollar needs direction. He began practicing this, and within months, not only did his savings grow, but he told me he felt a new sense of control, as though money finally respected him. Have you noticed that when you're vague with money, it's vague with you? When you say things like, "I just want more," it responds vaguely. You may get a few extra coins, an unexpected coupon, a small raise, but not the abundance you crave. But when you say, "I am directing this amount of flow into my life for this specific purpose," it moves differently. It sharpens. It listens. It's like training a dog. If you just call out, "Hey," it may wander, but if you call its name with clarity, it comes running straight to you. Money, like energy, needs a name, a direction, a target. A friend of mine once told me how he completely turned his financial life around after a conversation with his grandmother. He had been living paycheck to paycheck, constantly stressed. His grandmother asked him, "Do you tell your money where to go, or do you always wonder where it went?" That line struck him. He started treating money not as something random, but as something alive. Every time he was paid, he wrote down exactly where it would flow, into savings, into investments, into daily needs, into generosity. It was no longer chaos. It was flow. And soon, he realized something magical. The more clarity he gave his money, the more of it seemed to arrive. He told me, "It's like money doesn't like confusion. It likes confidence." And isn't that true about all energy? Imagine electricity. When it's wired with purpose, it lights up a city, powers a hospital, runs a factory. When it's scattered with no path, it's dangerous, wasted, even deadly. Money has the same nature. Direct it, and it creates growth. Leave it without direction, and it can cause stress, loss, or even destruction. There's also the inner energy, the energy you hold in your thoughts and emotions about money. If you think of money with fear, guilt, or hesitation, that's the signal you send out. It's like tuning a radio to a station of lack. You'll hear nothing but static and scarcity. But if you hold money with gratitude, clarity, and respect, you tune into abundance. A woman I once met kept saying, "I never have enough. I just can't hold on to money." And guess what? That was her reality. When she shifted her language to, "Money flows to me easily, and I direct it wisely," opportunities began appearing. She said it felt almost mystical, but really, it was her own energy aligning with direction. Sometimes people scoff and say, "That sounds too spiritual." But even in the most practical sense, it's true. Imagine two people given the same salary. One of them has no plan. They spend randomly, and at the end of the month, they're confused, wondering where it all went. The other has direction. This portion is for growth. This portion is for security. This portion is for joy. At the end of the year, their life looks entirely different. Not because one earned more, but because one gave energy direction. And here's something powerful. When you direct your money, it begins to serve you instead of the other way around. Most people serve money. They chase it, worry over it, obsess about it. But when you set direction, money begins working like an employee with a clear job description. Imagine walking into a company where no one has defined roles. Chaos, wasted effort, frustration. Now imagine a company where everyone knows exactly what they're meant to do. That's the difference between money without direction and money with purpose. I once read about a man who treated every dollar like a soldier. He said, "Each one of my dollars has a mission. Some are sent to protect me, some to build wealth, some to create joy, some to serve others. Not a single dollar stands idle." Over time, he built a life of abundance, not just financially but emotionally, because he felt in flow. He said, "When you realize money is energy, you stop fearing it. You start leading it." And that's what this really comes down to, leadership. If you don't lead your money will lead you. And it often leads you into stress, scarcity, and confusion. But if you stand tall, give it purpose, and direct it with clarity, it flows toward you and through you. Money respects direction. Just as rivers carve valleys when guided by gravity, money carves wealth when guided by intention. Energy flows where direction is given. And the moment you grasp this truth, your entire relationship with money transforms into something alive, responsive, and deeply empowering that imagine the way you order your morning coffee. You don't hesitate. You don't whisper your request with guilt. You don't say, if it's not too much trouble, maybe I could have a latte, but only if I deserve it. No. You walk up to the counter, you look the barista in the eye, and you ask with confidence. You expect your drink to come, and you wait for it without doubt. That's how natural it feels. And when it arrives, you don't act shocked. You don't say, oh my goodness, they actually gave it to me. You simply smile, take the cup, and go on with your day. Why then do we treat money differently? Why do we whisper our desires for abundance like secrets, dripping with guilt and hesitation, as if asking for a better life is a crime? Money responds to the energy we place around it. If you treat it as something distant, unattainable, and almost forbidden, it behaves like that. But when you treat it as something natural, expected, and normal, it begins to flow. Abundance is not some rare miracle for the chosen few. It's as natural as the sunrise, as normal as the air you breathe, as consistent as that cup of coffee you order each morning. The universe is not withholding, it is listening. And it listens not to the words of your mouth alone, but to the posture of your heart. If your request for wealth is laced with fear, guilt, or shame, it hears hesitation. But when it is wrapped in expectation and confidence, it hears certainty. I once met a man who grew up in poverty, and though he escaped it physically, he never escaped it mentally. Even when he started earning good money, he lived like it was temporary, like the rug could be pulled from under him at any moment. He told me, every time I get a paycheck, I feel like it's a mistake, like I don't really deserve it. And so, as quickly as the money came, it disappeared. He sabotaged his own abundance because deep down, he didn't feel worthy of it. One day I asked him, do you feel guilty when you order coffee? He laughed and said, of course not. That's ridiculous. I said, that's exactly how you need to treat money. Stop acting like it's some rare gift you don't deserve. It's part of life. It's energy. It's flow. Order it as naturally as you order coffee. That conversation changed him. Slowly, he shifted his mindset. He stopped apologizing for wanting more. He stopped treating wealth like forbidden fruit. And as his belief shifted, so did his reality. Within 2 years, he doubled his income, and more importantly, he carried himself with confidence instead of guilt. Abundance becomes natural when you stop apologizing for it. How often do people downplay their dreams out of fear of judgment? They say, I don't need much, just enough to survive. They shrink their desires to avoid discomfort. But survival is not the same as living. Why should you survive when you were created to thrive? Think about a tree. It doesn't apologize for growing tall, for stretching its branches wide, for taking in sunlight. It doesn't say, I'll just stay small so I don't upset the other trees. No, it grows as it was meant to. And in growing tall, it provides shade, fruit, and beauty for others. Your abundance works the same way. The more you have, the more you can give, the more you can create, the more you can impact. Lack does not serve the world. Abundance does. There's a story of a woman who always said, I just want enough to get by. And that's exactly what life gave her, just enough. Her bills were always barely paid. Her savings account was always near empty, but she managed to survive. One day, a mentor asked her, what if you change your order? What if instead of asking for enough to survive, you ask for enough to thrive? At first, she resisted. That feels greedy, she said. But her mentor looked at her gently and asked, is it greedy to want to take care of your family without stress? Is it greedy to want to give to causes you care about? Is it greedy to live free from fear? She sat in silence because she knew the answer. She began shifting her language, her vision, her expectation. Within a year, she went from scraping by to building security. Not because she suddenly became lucky, but because she stopped ordering poverty and started ordering abundance. What most people don't realize is that their casual words, their silent thoughts, are constant orders placed with the universe. When you mutter, I'll never have enough, you're placing an order. When you sigh, money slips through my hands, you're placing an order, and the universe, like the most obedient barista, fulfills it. But when you declare, Money flows to me with ease. You are placing a different order. When you affirm, I live in abundance and I welcome wealth, you're placing an order. And that order, too, is fulfilled. Life does not argue with you. It does not challenge your request. It simply responds to the energy you send. There was once a child who loved going to the ice cream truck every afternoon. He would run up with a coin in his hand, smiling wide, already tasting the sweetness in his mind before he even received it. He never doubted whether the ice cream man would give him his cone. He never thought, am I worthy of this ice cream today? He simply believed, asked, and received. That childlike faith is the posture you need with money. Somewhere along the way, adults forget this. They start to question, to doubt, to feel unworthy. But the truth is, abundance responds to expectation, not hesitation. Treating abundance as natural means removing the drama around money. Stop making it this mountain you can never climb, this miracle reserved for others. Begin seeing it as part of life's rhythm, just as natural as your heartbeat, just as normal as your daily cup of coffee. When you do, the shame dissolves, the fear fades, and you begin to live and flow. Money no longer becomes something you chase desperately. It becomes something that arrives naturally because your energy is aligned with it. I once asked an audience to close their eyes and picture wealth. Many people describe gold, luxury cars, mansions. Then I asked them to picture something more subtle. Wealth as peace of mind, as freedom, as security, as the ability to choose without fear. Slowly, their faces softened. They realized that abundance isn't just about extravagant excess. It's about the natural state of having more than enough, without guilt, without apology. And when you can see it that way, you stop pushing it away. You let it in. Abundance is not a stranger. It is not a miracle that visits only a few. It is as normal as breath, as expected as sunrise, as ordinary as ordering your morning coffee. The only difference is whether you believe it. The only barrier is whether you treat it as natural or as something forbidden. When you shift into expectation, when you normalize abundance, when you walk through life believing, of course wealth belongs here, you unlock a truth that changes everything. That abundance was never hiding from you. It was waiting for you to stop hiding from it. So now I ask you, how will you order your life from this moment forward? Will you keep whispering your desires like secrets, doubting whether they'll ever arrive? Or will you step up with confidence, with clarity, with certainty, and declare exactly what you want? Because life is listening. Right now, this very moment. Every thought is an order slip. Every word is a request. Every belief is a command. Stop canceling your order with fear. Stop shrinking your dreams with doubt. Stop apologizing for wanting abundance. Order with clarity. Order with confidence. Order with faith. Just as you expect your morning coffee to arrive, expect your abundance to arrive. Not someday, not eventually, but now. The universe responds to courage. It responds to direction. It responds to trust. And the moment you align your thoughts, your words, and your actions, life will deliver more than you dare to imagine. So today, don't just listen. Act. Decide. Speak your order with certainty. Write it down. Believe it. Expect it. Because abundance is waiting for your command. Your support means everything. If this resonated with you, please share, and subscribe. And remember this. The cup you hold out to life will always be filled, but only to the size you choose. So the real question is, are you ready to order your abundance with the same certainty you order your morning coffee? Thank you for being here. See you in the next one.